Today we'll be talking about self-talk and how we can reprogram the subconscious mind so that it really works to our advantage. It's not uncommon that I'll be contacted by a survivor or in a conversation with a survivor of trauma, and they say, you know, the tools are great. It's great that you give us tools that we can use, but what you don't understand is that when I'm in a crisis situation, I can't access the tools at that moment. When I'm triggered, I can't suddenly remember to do the rule of 7 seconds, or I can't bring myself to be regulated enough to do the JOT method. So it's not that the tools don't work, it's that I can't do them. Some have commented when it comes to their anger, they can't control it. Some have said that they can't control their emotions. Many trauma survivors feel like they can't control their emotions. And there's a lot of fear around the emotions. So they say, oh, I love to use that tool that you talked about where like we cut people out. But if I cut people out, what if I feel guilty? I can't handle guilt. Oftentimes, trauma survivors deal with procrastination and fear of taking the next step in life. But they're constantly telling themselves what they have to do. So they say, well, I don't want to work this job, but I have to work this job. And I have to get this presentation done. And I have to help these people, help my parents. I have to continue to live here right now because I can't move out of the house because I'm unable to support myself right now. Some people get very depressed when they look at social media and they compare themselves to others. One woman said, you know, I feel jealousy, to be honest, but I'm trying to make myself feel happy for the people that I see on social media who are supposedly doing better than me. But I don't feel happy for them, if I'm honest. I feel jealous that they're prospering and whatever, doing well, and I'm not. So if you can relate to any of these feelings and these thoughts, what I'd like to do is turn your attention to the self-talk that is behind these thoughts, or as I call it, the bias. When I'm addressing bias, bias is a way of thinking. It's an angle by which you examine something from. Our bias is a crucial part of what leads us to instability, the inability to control ourselves, and mental illness. Whereas when we have a better bias, we lean toward mental health, more stability, more emotional control. So check your bias. Because if you're speaking from the bias of powerlessness, then of course you're going to believe that you can't. If you're speaking from the bias of obligation, then of course you're going to feel like you have to. And you're from the bias of worthlessness, comparison to others, feeling and believing that others are superior to you, then of course you're going to feel jealous when you're looking at other people and the success that they're supposedly having, that they're advertising on social media. But if you want to get out of these negative, that is painful emotional states, then you must learn to change the self-talk. All of us have chatter in the brain, voices, if you will. It's usually the sound of our own voice in our head, or especially the voices of people who have hurt us or who have said things that are especially impactful, a lot of times in a negative way. All of this can be referred to as self-talk, but specifically, you control at least one of those voices. And the voice that you control is your conscious voice. The conscious voice is you purposely speaking to the self. Like right now, I'm speaking out of my conscious voice. It is deliberate, it is chosen. And so your conscious voice is your deliberate, chosen expression of the self. If we have self-talk such as, I can't, then of course you're going to start to feel like you can't do things like control your emotions. Or if you say, I can't, then of course you're going to start to feel like you can't use the tools. You can't access the tools. You can't stay calm. Or if you have self-talk that makes you powerless, such as I have to, I don't have any choice, then of course you're going to feel like dragging your heels and procrastinating. You're going to feel enslaved. You're going to feel like you're powerless. You're going to feel like you don't have any choice. If your self-talk says, I'm less than, I'm not better than, everyone else is better than me, then of course you're going to have that jealousy. But if you change the self-talk, it will change your experience in life. It will actually alter your whole reality to change your self-talk, and it will make you more successful. I'm not talking about just financial success, although yes, you will gain financial success by changing the self-talk. I am talking about being successful in the sense that you are accomplishing your goals. So if your goal is to heal, you will heal faster when you change the self-talk. So how do you do it? Because most of us here have an inner critic. That's a negative voice that says all those mean things. You can't, you're ugly, you're not worthy, you're not special, nobody likes you, you're going to be alone for your whole life. You know the song because you're hearing it all day long. So how do you change that song? How do you change the tune? How do you change the channel on that inner critic, on that inner voice? Well, the first thing I need to emphasize to you is that it is possible. It is not only possible, it's not even that hard to do. It's within your capabilities to do it. The next thing I have to communicate is it's to your advantage. Because just imagine if instead of having an inner critic, you had an inner cheerleader that was always telling you how great you are, how smart you are, how capable you are. It was always telling you about everything you could do. Imagine where you'd be. No doubt you can understand that you would be more successful. In fact, when you take a person, maybe someone you would consider to be successful just in life, and then you take a person that you would consider to be generally struggling in life, and you would put them side by side in your mind, you would realize the main difference was not where they grew up or what school they went to or how much money they had as a kid or now. What makes the difference between someone who goes on to be successful and someone who's always struggling is the programs. And so we got to switch out the programs. You do that for yourself. You constantly update your programs, and you're going to be operating optimally, just like your computer, just like your cell phone. You got to update it. You got to update it. So do we have some old programs that need to be updated? Some old self-talk like I can't, I'm not able, I'm helpless, I'm worthless, I'm not capable, I'm jealous. Do we have some old self-talk that needs to be updated? How do we do this? How do we do it? I'll give you one word because it's easier to remember than if I give you a whole paragraph. Repetition. The subconscious mind is reprogrammed. It gets overwritten through a process called repetition. That is where you do something over and over again. It's through repetition that the mind learns. That's how your mind learned how to speak English, because you just heard it a lot as a child. That's how your mind learned how to walk. That's how your mind learned how to tie your shoes. That's how you learned how to play basketball if you know how to play. And if you don't know how to play, you know why? Because you didn't use enough repetition. That's why you can't play basketball. Truly, that's what it is. It's repetition, right? Whatever it is you want to learn how to do, you will learn it through repetition. And the more repetition, the more fluid and the more easy it becomes. So if you cook a meal for the first time, it's a little bit awkward. But when you go back and recook that meal, what happens? You start moving a little more smooth, right? And then you go back and do it again, and you start inviting friends over and you say, hey, I know how to make this, and you do it again and again. What starts happening? It becomes second nature, right? It's like you could do it with your eyes closed, so to speak. So you can have positive self-talk, upbuilding self-talk, propitious, beneficial self-talk. And it can become second nature to you if you utilize repetition. You got to say it. You got to do it over and over again. Well, how long does this take? Not that long. We learn things very quickly. We're brilliant. So let's look at some different ways that we can frame things. And remember, if you want to program, if you want to write in these new programs that I'm going to give you, you need to use repetition. So here's a new program for I can't. Okay, that's an old program, right? So does it mean we should never say I can't? Well, I certainly don't like the sound of it, but I'll tell you what, if you could just back I can't down to about 15%, and 80% of the time, you should say I can. I can. Should always look at the I can, which is there is always something I can do. That's the new program. There's always something I can do. So instead of saying, well, I can't, there's always something I can do. Ask yourself the question, what can I do in this situation? Instead of saying, I can't do anything. That program doesn't serve you well. Here's a program that serves you better. I can always do something. What can I do in this situation? That's a superior program. It gets the subconscious mind working on something that's going to help. When we just say, I can't, then your subconscious mind is not working on anything that's going to help you, except for maybe welling up some tears in your eyes and starting to make you want to cry, because we're going to get a painful rush of chemicals and emotions when we're in the I can't. We were designed to be powerful. We have to feel powerful. We have to. I don't make the rules. That's just what it is. I'm just letting you know that's how we're designed. When we feel powerful, guess what? We feel good. We feel good when we feel just capable. I don't mean powerful like having a whole empire. I just the capability to have autonomy in life, to have a little bit of say, of input over what your life will be, to feel like you influence your life. Freedom. When we feel free, capable, powerful, we feel happy. But a lot of this is the perception of your mind, because you can encounter the same situation and decide that you can say I can't, or decide to say that I can, or what can I do, or I can always do something. So for instance, when the repo team comes and repossesses your car, you can say, I can't do anything about it. There's nothing I can do. Nothing ever goes my way. And you can go into all the negative, bad, detrimental programs. Or you can access these positive programs, and it will come naturally to you if you've been practicing through repetition. And you can say, well, there's always something I can do. So what can I do? And then you realize, well, I can get on the phone with this company, with the bank or whoever owns this car, and start negotiating. And you're more likely to get your car back through that process of action than to sit there with your hands up saying, I can't. It doesn't serve you well. And so if your issue is, I can't control my emotions, Or Roman, I can't use the tools when I'm in a actual crisis situation, then I implore you, switch the program that you're operating on, and all of a sudden you'll look at the situation differently. So let's say you're triggered in a moment and you feel scared, and this is the time that you would say, I can't use the tools. But look what happens when you say to yourself, I can always do something. What can I do? And you might notice, well, it's not right. And it's not talk to someone. But what can I do is the question. I can breathe. Oh, that's one of my tools, isn't it? Breathing is one of the tools of regulating the nervous system, which is a fancy word for controlling the emotions. I can always do something. Wow, that does help. Now, what can I do? I can do the JAP method. I can do the rule of 7 seconds. When you're repeating back to me, Roman, I can't access my tools, you're just repeating a faulty program. The question to ask yourself is, what can I do? The truth is, the philosophy is, the new program is, I can always do something. Unless you are in a coma or dead, you can always do something. Make sense? Great. Let's look at this I have to program. Without even knowing it, you could be flooding your system with negative chemicals with the whole, well, I have to stay here right now. I can't cut the narcissist out of my life. I have to keep this job right now. I have to do this for the so-and-so. Switch the program to something that's a little bit more powerful than I have to, because that just makes it seem like you're a slave in this life. So let's switch the program to, I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. You're free. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. So saying I have to is a faulty program. It's untrue and it's unhelpful. What is helpful is reminding yourself that anything you do is really because you want to do it. Even when you're under pressure. and it seems like if you don't go to the left, then any other option will lead to such dire consequences. So it makes you say, I have to, but let's just reframe that. I want to go to the left because I don't want the dire consequences. Does that make sense? It's not I have to because there's dire, I want to. It's my preference to go to the left because there's no dire consequences on the other side. You see, I want to pay my taxes. I want to follow the laws. I don't have to. I want to. And yes, is it out of concern for the consequences? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it puts me into a mindset of powerfulness when I remind myself that this is what I want to do. It gives me more peace. And it allows me to break through, to break past procrastination, which can often loom over top of us because we're feeling overwhelmed and like we're slaves, like we don't have any control, we don't have any autonomy over our lives. So we want to get out of the state of powerlessness and telling ourselves that we have to do certain things and get into, I want to. I can do anything I want to do. And this is what I want to do. I want to do this. It's making sense. So when you're scrolling through and you're feeling jealous because everyone else's life is better than you on social media, why don't we change? Why don't we reframe jealousy? I feel jealous to I feel inspired when I see other people doing better than me. Because at the core, what it is that we're feeling this sense of inner shame for the wasted potential where we feel like we could have done more, but we're not. And instead of just sitting there and being like, oh, now I seethe with resentment for everyone who is doing more, it's just better to say, man, I need to get off my butt and get to work. I feel inspired. Oh, wow, look how good she's doing. You're taking the jealousy into a good way. You're using it propitiously for yourself, to your own benefit. So it's like you do feel that pain, but then you allow the pain to be like a motivator, right? You go, oh, man, I looked at your latest social media posts and I got to tell you, I felt inspired. That's superior to the fake, I'm happy for you. And by the way, it feels better to the other person for you to tell them I felt inspired than I'm happy for you, right? So those are some good examples of ways that we can reprogram, some better programs we can use to train the self-talk. We have to be very careful about the way we talk to ourselves. I recommend speaking out loud. You can talk to yourself just in your head as well, perfectly fine. But I speak out loud so I can cut through the chatter. Because when I'm speaking out loud like this, that's the only thing I can hear. So it's like I'm shouting over everything else. And that's why I use speaking out loud as my technique for self-talk. But we have the ability to speak just like this in our own mind. So you have to cut through the chatter and say what's good for you. I can. There's always something I can do. I don't have to do anything. I want to. I'm doing what I want to do. I don't feel jealous. I feel inspired. I feel inspired by how well this other person is doing. So let me give you a few more examples for your notes of ways that you can talk to yourself, of positive self-talk phrases. I deserve happiness and success. I deserve happiness and success. There's nothing I can't handle. There's nothing I can't handle. I have so many abilities and so much potential. I have so many abilities and so much potential. I am worthy of love and respect from others. I am worthy of love and respect from others. I am grateful for my strengths. I am grateful for my strengths. I'm constantly learning and growing as a person. I am constantly learning and growing as a person. I take care of myself the way I would take care of a child. I take care of myself the way I would take care of a child. I am proud of myself for how far I've come. I am proud of myself for how far I've come. I believe in myself and my abilities to achieve my goals. I believe in myself and my abilities to achieve my goals. I can do this. I can do this. I can do almost anything I put my mind to. I can do almost anything I put my mind to. I control my thoughts and actions. I control my thoughts and actions. I am resilient. I am resilient. I am making progress toward my goals. I am learning and growing every day. I am grateful for all the good in my life. I choose to focus on the positive. That should be good for now, right? So utilize repetition to reprogram your subconscious mind. The best time is when you really need to hear these things. So be relentless in correcting and speaking over the old voices, whether it comes from your mom or it comes from something some bully said. Speak over it, cut through the chatter and say these things. I can do it. I am capable and strong. Give yourself these, as people call them, affirmations. Because why? Because we're reprogramming the subconscious mind that way. And if we're repetitive, this will literally change your whole reality in life. It will change the way you eat, the way you walk, the way you talk, and the way other people respond to you, which will then reaffirm this new bias that you have, this new bias of self-love and capability and strength. And it will change your entire life. I promise.